welcome back to Miss Floris's virtual classroom. Today is Tuesday, November 17th, and we have another science lesson. You may remember that our unit so far is 2.7b, and we are talking about water. We're talking about fresh water, we're talking about salt water, and we're talking about all the different types of bodies of water that have fresh water and salt water. Today we have a very cool assignment, a very cool video that we are going to be watching. Now, I wanted first to remind you, yesterday we read through our STEM scopes and we were reading about oceanographers. What do oceanographers do? Do you remember? That's right. Oceanographers studies Earth's oceans, but there are different types of oceanographers. They study different parts of the ocean. Today, we are going to be meeting some very cool oceanographers and what they're studying about our Earth. Now, some oceanographers study climate. What's climate? Climate is the weather in a place over many, many years. Today, we're going to be looking at some oceanographers who are studying the climate in a very, very special place in the world. They're going to be talking about the very next part that we read yesterday, about how Earth's climate is becoming warmer and warmer, and the oceans are becoming warmer and warmer, and this is affecting all the plants and animals that live in and next to the oceans. So, the oceanographers we're going to be looking at today are looking at a very cool piece of land in Greenland. They're looking at glaciers. So, we're going to watch this video and then we're going to discuss the impact of how the climate is changing over many years. I am super excited for this video. I learned so much when I watched it. So, I want you to think about how the climate is changing the world, right? And we're watching a real life video, right? A real news video about real scientists studying water and climate.
The annual summer melting of the Greenland ice sheet has once again resulted in a greater than average melt, according to scientists monitoring the man-made climate change. Although the ice sheet isn't in danger of completely disappearing in the coming centuries, scientists warn that even minor increases in melting can cause devastating sea level rises. The Greenland ice sheet consists of huge mountains of ice and snow reaching 3,000 meters or 9,843 feet at its peak. It's the second largest mass of ice on the planet after the Antarctica ice sheet, covering 80% of the island of Greenland. The numbers are so large they almost begin to lose meaning. The total mass of the ice is estimated to be 2,900,000 cubic kilometers. But the ice sheet is shrinking, albeit very slowly. This is partly due to melting and partly to the glaciers calving into the ocean, a natural process that's happening faster than before. Calving is where huge chunks of ice break off and form icebergs. Scientists from the Danish Meteorological Institute, or DMI, collect data from satellites and research stations around Greenland to produce daily estimates of whether the Greenland ice sheet is losing or gaining mass. This year, their data has shown that overall, the 2015 season has been close to average with some slightly unusual features. In just 1 week in early July, the ice sheet lost about 30% of what is normally melted off in an entire melt season. A cold period in August, accompanied by an early snowfall, ended melting in many parts of Greenland. The US-based National Snow and Ice Data Center, or NSIDC, also run models estimating the Greenland ice sheet melting en masse. Their data indicates that melt extent across the whole of Greenland was above average in 2015, and that in July over 50% of the ice sheet experienced surface melting. The DMI has estimated that since 1840, melting has increased by 60% and glacier calving by about 40%. At the same time, snowfall has increased 12 to 20%, offsetting some, but not all, of the loss. Most of the melting increase has occurred in the last decade, with 2012 being the most extreme melting year so far. NSIDC figures show that the rapid increase in total melt area across the whole country in 2015 was at a rate comparable to the record melt year of 2012. Ruth Mottram is a climate scientist at DMI, specializing in running the Greenland ice sheet models.
since 2000, we've had this trend where we've had more extreme melting, sometimes only for short periods, but that short period, if it happens in the middle of July or beginning of August, can be extremely significant for the whole ice sheet. So we can see a large amount of melt happening during a short period of time, and that just changes the entire surface of the ice sheet.
According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, if the whole of Greenland's ice sheet were to melt, global sea levels would rise 7 meters or 23 feet. If current melting continues, the ice sheet will eventually be lost. But it will take a long time, according to Mottram.
I would say that we have observations from satellites that show that the ice sheet in general is losing more ice every year than it is gaining. It is not in a state where it's going to grow. It's in a state where it's going to gradually shrink. If those rates continue and if those rates start to accelerate, then we could see the ice sheet being lost. But it will still take hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, for the entire ice sheet to disappear. It's not just going to vanish overnight.
And while it may take hundreds of years before the whole ice sheet is gone, even a small part of it melting could have large consequences, according to Dirk van Os, senior researcher at GEUS.
Yes, currently the ice sheet is getting smaller. So it's not just getting smaller because it's melting more, but also because it's flowing faster. And in these years, it's contributing this much every year to sea level rise. And then you think, well, this is not that much. But if you have 10 years, and all of a sudden it's that much, and then you get more global warming, perhaps, and it goes faster and faster. And in general, people don't need to be concerned about the Greenland ice sheet because it will be around for a long time. But even if 1/10 of it would melt in the following 100 years, then there will be huge cities, a large share of the population of the world that will get in trouble because of this sea level rise. So the economical impact could be huge.
The United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP21, begins in Paris, France on November 30th to December 11th.
Whoa, that was a lot of facts all at once. Man, I want you to think about the water. What kind of water is in the glaciers? They're talking about the Greenland glaciers. So what kind of water was in the glaciers? Let's see if we can look at our STEM scopes from yesterday and figure that out, right? We had talked about fresh water. We had talked about oh, there's glaciers. Glaciers are huge sheets of ice. And that's what we just saw. We just watched an entire video about the Greenland glaciers, right? And what is so important about the glaciers, right? Ocean water is too salty. We cannot get it from giant ice sheets or glaciers, right? Water in glaciers are frozen. They're fresh water, but they're frozen. So we had to think to ourselves, well, what's going to happen, right? And then when all these glaciers melt, they go into our oceans. And he was talking about what would happen if our oceans got a little more water and a little more water and a little more water. So let's find out where the Greenland glaciers are today. This video was from 2015. So let's find out where they are today. Okay, students, so Ms. Flores found an article from 2020, this year, about the Greenland ice sheets. That's the video we just watched. And our video was from 2015, so it's already been a couple years since that happened. So now we're going to find out, what do the ice sheets look like in 2020? What does the water at the Greenland ice sheets look like? So let's go ahead and check out that video. All right, so we're going to check out this video. We're just going to wait just 1 second. Miss Flores is getting this video ready. It's so cool.
Has been captured in a stunning image of Greenland's melting ice sheet. The photo was taken a few days ago by scientist Stefan Olsen. His sled dogs would normally be running on ice, but instead, they're knee-deep in a wide expanse of light blue water. Greenland's melt season runs from June to August, but on this one day, June 13th, 40% of the island's ice sheet experienced melting. Here's Olsen talking to CNN about the image.
I was perhaps like many others now a bit overwhelmed by the.
Whoa, I want you to take a second and look at this picture. Doesn't it look crazy? They are running in water where there was the giant ice sheets. There's just water now. That is so cool. It's so crazy how much change has happened in just a few years. Now, we're not going to finish the video. I just wanted my students to see how awesome that science can change, but also to think about those climate changes, right? We saw in our very first article about how the climate is changing, and we heard these different scientists talking about the ice sheets melting and how it would affect the earth. Now, I want you to take the information you've learned from all of these different videos, and I want you to answer your questions in your assignment. Thank you so much for joining me in our science lesson today. Thank you, students.